Yes, folks, it's Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. I'm Fred McMurray, which means this must be
Pillars, pillars, pillars of franchising. Pillars, pillars, pillars of franchising.
there's something about the music. It always makes me rock out at the beginning of the show and just pumps me up ready to go. So, folks, I'm with Ray, Kristin, and David. We're back again. Today's topic's an interesting one. Looking for labor in all the wrong places. Plus, the missed Michael Castiglione interview from a couple of weeks ago. So, folks, how we doing today?
Good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. The weather here in Aurora is 40 degrees, sunny, and it's gorgeous outside.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ray.
Gorgeous is relative, right?
Yeah.
Perfect day for working outside.
I see you're inside.
Yeah, I am. Well, I mean, that'd be a show, you know.
I mean, let's just call it how it is. You could be sitting outside on your porch like David.
Yeah, that's true. But then
Yeah.
I'd look like David, like the Terminator.
I said right now, all this digital stuff going on his face, he looks like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Poor David.
it's part
There
of
we
the
go.
the shadowing that he gets killed by. So, it is what it is.
I
And-
know. Well,
If
That's a
anyone
good
can,
way to set this up.
well, you're outside. You're in Florida. Deal with it. So the video doesn't look good. I mean, and actually, does anyone know where we actually are today? Last week we had we were on a glacier for Kristin's benefit. This week, who wants to guess where we are?
Well, I know where we're at. I know where I'm at.
I mean, we're named after a candy bar over there, right?
Yes, we're all on Mars. I love that. Just having some fun, folks. So, who's going to start off on our topic today?
All right, David, it's you and me, I think. And Ray, I hope you jump in because we all have the same problem, and pretty much anybody in the States today, and maybe even beyond the States, maybe our neighbors to the north in Canada have the same problem too. But as we come out of COVID and minimum wage increases and people are getting extra money to stay unemployed, looking for labor becomes really tricky.
Yeah.
So we were kind of joking around last week when we said we were looking for labor in all the wrong places, but quite frankly, it really seems like a lot of times we're looking in all the wrong places because you just can't seem to find a whole lot of help these days.
Yep. I think everybody has that problem as well. So it's not just us. And
Yeah.
Then because everybody is buying online, then you got some of your employers who are really, really large, like Amazon,
Yeah.
employing just about anybody. You have a breath, okay, you're hired. You know?
Yeah. Last night I went to one of my favorite Indian restaurants and I said, boy, when are you guys going to open? We're dying to come in and just have a nice sit down meal. And he said, the problem is I can't get help. He said, it's me, my mom, and my dad. That's it. My girlfriend who would normally help is going back to college and we just can't get anybody to serve.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, and that was the case today when I went to Chipotle for lunch. I eat out a lot. Same problem. They can't, whether it's restaurants, whether it's cleaning, whether it's, whatever. And quite frankly, I know that's not why they did it, but thank goodness, I guess, for Walmart and Jewel and some of the bigger box retail places, Home Depot, who put in self-checkouts, right? Because if they can't get help, well, they just force us to go through self-checkout like a herd of cattle.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing to do, but at least there's a way to get out of the store. So David, in the restaurant business, where would you go looking for help today?
That is the $1,000,000 question. Truthfully, the easy answer is word of mouth from your current team. I mean,
Yep.
if that's usually what we relied on all the time. I can safely say in 28 years, I never put a help wanted sign up anywhere in any of my locations for a couple of reasons. First one, it's how it hit me as a guest or as a customer, as a guest, is I see a help wanted sign as I'm pulling into a restaurant. I'm almost waiting to say, well, my meal's going to take a really long time because they don't have enough help back there. But that was one of the biggest things. But the other reason was real simple. It goes back to what I said before. Our goal was that we would become such a place that our current staff and employees enjoyed working at, that they would go recruit for us.
Right.
And that's where we put all of our energy and all of our focus. Did we bring from the outside? Of course we did. If usually, I mean, our success rate with referrals was much higher than bringing them in from the outside. And then we had a very stringent process when they did come in from the outside. But there's apps that are out there now. There's a lot of different sources to turn to, as opposed to back in the day when you ran an ad in a classified newspaper, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot more available, but it's still a fight. And I still maintain, a great referral base is your best bet.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it depends on the type of help you're looking for too.
mhm, mhm.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. And, so look at, we brought up a restaurant. So the restaurants, you have the people in the back cooking, you have the people out front, taking care of the guests, right? And they all take care of the guests, don't get me wrong. But that's two different skill sets, two different mentalities, two different approaches to the employees. People out front, if they're working on tips and they're kind of the face of the place, you want the best out there. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they're kind of a little bit easier to kind of go recruit and go get their friends in, because they like working with their friends. The people maybe in the kitchen, if they're not real high skilled chefs, real high skilled labor, it takes a special person. I mean, there's a lot of stress in the kitchen. There's a lot of the heat in the kitchen. You can't say
Oh
the heat
man.
out of the kitchen, right? And again, and they need to command a certain dollar wage to even get the conversation started. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of both to each, where you really have to massage it. But in any event, you're still looking for that good fit.
Sure. And Ray, your background, right? I mean, not so much today. We know we both have similar challenges, but in the past, and imagine working in the tech world today, right?
Well, when I started the business 17 years ago, I used a mirror to hire employees. So I think, well, you're shaking your head. Our audience is saying, what? And basically, it's here's a mirror. Can you fog it?
Yeah.
You're hired. Obviously, it's a lot different, and a lot like Dave now. We have not advertised, although we just recently went on Facebook, but we have not advertised at all. It was all word of mouth,
Right.
through our family of employees. And
Yeah.
I stress family because that's what we are in our office, as I'm sure you are as well, Kristin.
Absolutely. Yep.
But we do stress it, and we celebrate, all the things that are going along.
Yeah.
In our family, all the birthdays and anniversaries and everything like that. It's become more difficult now because we can't meet. I think I'm one of the few offices that we had weekly meetings, and sometimes it was a covered dish meeting.
Yep.
Everybody would bring something. So we really miss that, and it's hard now to get, how should I say, transmit that feeling to everyone without having those meetings.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think that some of that has also translated to fewer people being comfortable going out and applying for jobs, right? I mean, maybe not really comfortable going face to face. And as you said that, it made me think, oh my gosh, we haven't even had anybody say, well, do you do Zoom interviews, right? Like nobody's requested that. And I don't know that my hiring manager has ever thought about how to reply to that question. Just hasn't come up. Now I'm thinking, dang, I gotta get that process in place, because now, unfortunately, if you ask that question and we said, yes, we can, the reality of the matter is we're an essential workplace, which
Yeah.
means even if I hire you over the computer, you have to come in for all the training, and you're in people's homes. So
Right.
you're gonna have to get over that very quickly. So
Yeah. We started doing initial interviewing over Zoom, initial interviews. It was very helpful.
yeah,
The other thing is, I want to touch on, we talk about, I mean, this is all focusing on hiring, but when you're talking about looking for labor in all the wrong places, I think that's what everybody always says is, oh, we gotta go hire, we gotta go hire. Well, really, the key to it is retention.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
you can limit
Absolutely.
everything, and it drops to your bottom line when you are really good at employee retention. And so years ago, when you felt this worker attitude and workplace shift,
yes,
I took the focus a little bit differently. Instead of focusing on just finding better employees and just finding the right people, that type of thing, I went and tried to get it from both ends. And I went ahead and developed our managers on their leadership skills and their ability to build great teams
Mhm.
within each of their own restaurants, within each of their own units. So it's a little of both. Yeah, we can go find people, but if you can develop managers who develop leadership skills or develop great leadership skills in your managers, they're going to have a better chance at employee retention. And again, proud to say that our retention numbers were among the best in our industry. Our turnover rate was lower than a lot of other places, but we
yeah,
put a huge emphasis on the team and on the leadership, on to not be managers and just manage people as if they're just a number, but to lead them. The old saying is help them get what they want and they'll give you anything you want, right? So
right.
if we led them well, those are the managers, the best leaders, had the lowest turnover and had the best retention rate. So that's an area that I swear is very overlooked, because a lot of times when I'm counseling other franchisees or other managers, this statement inevitably comes up, where they're complaining about with their employees. And I laugh. I looked at them. I says, what are you complaining about? They said, oh, they just don't get anything done. I said, two things. You hired them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you kept them. So,
Yeah.
so, so it falls back on you. So somewhere in the middle, at some point when you hired them, you thought they were going to be a good fit.
That's right.
You kept them, so you felt there was some value there. So was it training? Was it leadership? Did you not develop them? What happened? But
Yeah.
they like to throw it on the employee when, hey, maybe they needed to look at themselves and say, I needed to develop myself as a better leader to get the most out of that team member.
Well, and I think that's interesting because, and I know that for us, our first maybe 3, 4, even 5 years, right? You're going through growing pains as a new business. You're going through a huge learning curve. By 5 years, you think you know it all pretty much. You don't, because it's a forever learning curve. I mean, even today, I learn new stuff, right? You just never stop learning when you're a business owner. And as we went through staffing shifts, the one thing that I realized is that when I stopped doing the training myself, when I quit being hands-on and I delegated it to someone who I really thought was going to cross every T and dot every I, they didn't. And so when it came to the point where it's like, okay, so you've gone through these documents, you've gone through this process, I'm going to give you one more chance. We're going to go out and watch you do this job, because I need to understand what it is that you're failing at. Like, where is that you're just not getting it, right? Then I realized there were huge gaps in our training. And so then I had to say, okay, well, now technically I can't really fire this person because we never gave them the tools to be successful.
Bingo.
And so and once we started really kind of going back and drilling into where the issues were, that's when you get into the retention, because I think people look at, and we always talk about, oh my gosh, the cost of hiring an employee. Okay, well, you shouldn't look at the cost of hiring an employee. the investment
Yeah.
of hiring an employee is how you need to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you make a bad investment, well, you made the bad investment.
Yeah.
But if you make a good investment, that means that you've spent time, you've researched it, you've ensured it's got, all the things necessary to grow, right? And so I think that's really important for people when you go out there. And usually, if you have experience hiring, in the first 2 or 3 minutes, you can tell, like, is this person, like, do they walk in? Do they have the right attitude? Do they carry themselves properly? Do they look you in the eye, right? Like, there's a vibe that comes with somebody. Really quickly, you get a really good, like, feel for it, right?
Yeah.
And then now in Dave's case, when you read his application process, they might leave with their tail between their legs, like, oh my God, I could never do this. Because his sets all the expectations very clear. I mean, like I said to David, oh my gosh, if I was applying for a job with you, I would know that if I'm not 100% on board, don't even bother sticking around to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's really the goal. The goal is, you kind of want that to fire them at the interview process. So in other words, you don't want to make that bad hire. You want to be mindful of your pocketbook, the cost that it takes to hire and train and do everything with the employee. But we've had people on both sides of that, Kristin. We've had some people that have gone through it and literally put the paper down and says, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Hugely helpful to us and to our
Yep.
bottom line.
Yep.
And then we've had some people that were just as enthusiastic as could be, saying, this is the type of place I want to work for and work at.
And
These
you know
are the
why?
people I want to be around. Yeah.
And they want to work for you because they're glad to know that you're going to hold their coworkers to the same standard.
Right.
And they're not having to deal with a bunch of drama and a bunch of BS that goes with a company that doesn't have standards and that doesn't hold people accountable.
Yep.
So I think that's why you saw people who were like, oh yeah, I want in on this, because they knew you were going to be a no nonsense kind of guy.
Yeah. And
there's
it wasn't, it's not so much being kind of the hard ass type thing. It's just laying out the expectations and saying,
Yeah.
hey, here's what we accept. And you do this stuff, we're going to get along fabulously. You're going to do really well. And we're all going to be really happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really what you want to create.
I've got a story to tell. We got time to tell us a short story?
Yeah, do we have to pay our bills first, Fred? I don't know if we have to pay bills.
Ray's
I
got
don't know
time. Ray's got
Go,
time for
Ray.
a story, and then we'll pay the bills.
Okay, all right.
I was walking into work one day, and the lady who was the HR manager for one of the other businesses in my building, and she says, who's the hiring manager? And I said, well, pretty much I am. And she says, wow, I'm really impressed. I said, why are you impressed? She says, when I walk in the building, I meet a lot of your employees, and nearly every one of them says good morning and hi and gives me a smile and waves. I said, well, come on in, and I welcomed her into our office. And now this is a professional who has a degree in hiring people, and she was impressed with our little operation of about 20. I don't even know how many employees we got now, whatever employees, and it was simple. When I see my employees, every single one of them, I say, hi, good morning, how are you? And I wave to them. Now, weigh that against the cost of a bad employee. How easy is that to say hi and good morning to every one of your employees, and have every one of your employees say hi to every one of the other employees, as opposed to going through the rounds with someone about, bad performance or whatever. It's so much easier and cheaper to do it that way and just be nice to people.
That little wave I was just giving was my last team coming in tonight, waving and saying hello to me. So just before you told that story, I was waving to my girls coming in.
Yeah.
Just model the behavior that you want them to do. Just model.
Really,
Start there.
really.
Start there.
Let's go pay the bills, and then I want to talk some more about how important the retention is. And there are a few places that I think people do overlook when they're a new business and they need to form partnerships in the hiring process. And then we'll get on with our Castiglione interview with Sandler Training out in LA.
Hey, franchise owners, how's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to our local customers. Give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine with a y.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. So a couple of things we just want to clear up before we get on with our show with Sandler Training with Michael Castiglione. There are a couple of things we were talking about here before we went to break. For new businesses, I think one of the things that we overlook quite a bit is as you go into your communities, great partners to have is the Chamber of Commerce. A lot of times those people have connections within the community that can help you get started. Another one that we came up with that we used was the actual unemployment office, believe it or not. Have you used them, Ray? Did you have any luck with that?
I think I did right in the very beginning. I put up some ads in their office, but we never got any results from them.
Okay, well, we did, and we actually, and I don't know, I think you are using this, but there's some really great digital platforms out there right now. We're using one. I'll give them a little plug, since their name is Career Plug, and they hit like 5 or 6 different digital platforms, and really you can advertise anything on there from executive positions down to real basic, like we have the house cleaners on there, and obviously everybody knows about LinkedIn. Right? LinkedIn is another great place to look. So there are places out there. Don't allow yourselves to get, down and out because you can't find any help. I know here we also offer incentives for our girls, referral incentives, and they love it. So have you had any other things that either one of you guys want to add in terms of how to find great help?
It's, again, we touched on a lot of it before, but if you're just talking about platforms, you see a lot of them advertised. Indeed, is very, very popular. We used to get a lot of applications on them, but again, I think it, for us, wasn't the greatest source of leads for all positions. So,
Sure.
there's, I think you have to, just as with advertising, you have to try several of them out and see which ones kind of hit your target. Then the other thing is, again, you're competing with other people for help. So you can't just throw out an ad that's going to say the same thing that everybody else says. You have to find an ad that grabs attention and tells them, I want to work at this place. I got to find out more. So get creative on the writing of the ads also. Don't just throw it out there, and because somebody else says, hey, working for X number of dollars an hour, flexible hours, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, you're just like everybody else.
Right.
Think of another way to say the same thing, because the goal is you want to get them to the interview to see if it's a perfect fit. So you can't build your team if no one's answering your ads. And a lot of times
absolutely.
we just put generic ads out there instead of really it's an advertising mindset. It's a creative mindset. You need to say, how do I grab them by the throat and get them to apply to my place?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And I think, another thing when you talk about retention, to just shift gears a little bit, everybody has a different way that they like to schedule themselves as business owners. I have multiple demands on my time in the morning, so I don't get here very much in the morning to see my girls. I prefer the afternoon because they come in, they're ragged, they're tired, and a lot of times they want to vent. So I'm like, so how was the day? And I can hear all about how, Mrs. Jones was the crabbiest person today, and so was, whatever was going on, right? And let them get it all off their shoulders so that when they go home, they vent it and they can be 100% for their families, right? They get it all off their chest. And they leave work at work, right? That's the idea. So I think make sure that you at least see them a few times a week so they can connect to you, right? They want to know that you care. They want to know that you understand what it is that they're going through. I think that's really, really important.
And nothing's changed for over 70 years in surveys done of all businesses. The number one thing employees want is appreciation.
Yes.
Not money, not anything. And they've done these surveys for 70 years. It's never
Yep.
changed.
Absolutely.
I got a quick comment before we go to a commercial. I was asking an employee one day, what's the best time of your day? And she thought for a moment. She says, when I come to work in the morning. I said, what?
Wow.
She says, oh yeah, I get to meet with all my friends and socialize. And then we go to work. And when I'm done, when I'm off work, then I go home and I got to cook. I got to get the kids' laundry done. You know all the things that need to be done.
Yes.
And then there's homework for the kids. She begins her job when she gets off work.
Great point.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, last night I was writing these notes out, and I thought to myself, does it seem like a lot? Like it does, right? To me, it seems like a lot. What I wrote, but for the client-facing employees especially, right? Make the investment in them, because as they feel appreciated, all of that is going to shine through to the employee and to your clients, right? If they feel appreciated, that just comes across to everyone they face.
That's right.
You can see it in them, whether they're in a house, whether you go into a restaurant. So really, for all of you out there that are frustrated, once you get your people, you have to keep them. And with that, we'll go through our final.
Well, let me just butt in one time. One sentence, one driving force that we use is real simple.
Absolutely.
Take care of your people, and your people will take care of your business.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Fred, take us to commercial, and then we'll go on and talk with Sandler Training.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Pillars of Franchising. Today I'm here with our guest, Michael Castiglione. Did I get that right?
You nailed it.
Okay.
Good job.
Awesome. Of Sandler Training Centers in Los Angeles,
Yeah,
where
thanks
it
for having
is
me.
a heck of a lot warmer there today, I presume, than here.
Oh yeah, we're about a 65, 70 degrees. It's sunny. It's beautiful. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just telling Michael how I just came in after scraping 14 cars in the parking lot and 6 inches of what some might consider to be fresh powder for skiing. I consider it to be 6 inches of fresh, pure torture. So, on that happy note, everyone knows how much I just love living in the North. We're going to talk to Michael today about his training center, Sandler Training, which you've been doing for 3 years now. Is that right, Michael?
Just about, yeah.
Awesome. Tell us what kind of training you guys specialize in there and out in LA.
So we do sales development. So we focus on 3 things. First and foremost, the behaviors, what to do every day, week, month, to make sure that you're getting to success. Number two, the attitudes, right? Do you have the mindset when you walk into a sales call? Do you have equal business stature? Do you believe in what you do? Are you okay getting no's? And then number three, the technique. Is it's 2021, Kristin. No one wants to be sold. You know, that used car sales professional of the 80s is gone. And
Mhm.
teach people to be much more of a consultative sales seller. So it's how do you ask better questions? How do you take control and make sure that you're either providing a solution to a problem they have or shaking hands and parting friends? So it's not this hard sell type of mentality anymore. It's much more of a consultative sales.
I love that idea because I hate feeling, for me in particular, it's buying cars, right? There's nothing more frustrating for me as a female than trying to buy a car. And the hard sales tactics just don't ever seem to work. But aside from that, tell me what are some of the sales techniques or skills that you teach people who are maybe new to the whole sales gig?
Well, for starters, it's a full system of whether you've been selling for 5 hours or 55 years. There's something for everyone, and it's all about putting everything in the right order, where we take those three things: the behaviors, the attitudes, and the techniques, and infuse them throughout the entire process. So you talk about the used car sales professional. It's that idea of like commission breath, right? They're very aggressive. They're wanting to make that sale. They're not wanting to help. And those are two completely different ideals. Is people who are new into business, they're so passionate about what they do, right? They love what they do. They don't realize they are that person because they show up, they start throwing up, and they tell them all about their features and benefits and how good they are and blah. And before you know it, they don't see it. But from the outside perspective, they are that sales professional. They're coming off aggressive and pushing, but they don't know it because they're so passionate about what they do. So it's taking a step back, removing the emotion of it as the sales professional. We know that we need to get to their emotion because people buy emotionally and then justify intellectually. So first and foremost, you got to listen. You got to see, is there an underlying need? Is there something going on? And then just like a really good doctor is you probe at that. You go 2-3 levels deep in understanding what their real problem is. For example, because some people come to me and they're like, I want more sales. Well, sure, who doesn't? Tell me more about that. What does that really mean? The untrained professional will go, well, sure, let me get you into training. Let's do this. Let's do blah, blah, blah.
Right.
What is this? Oh, what does that mean to you? What is that? And what I may find out is they don't need sales training. They need marketing. They need more awareness. They're so siloed. They're so hidden if they just, and that's not me. So really doing a better job of understanding who they are. And it doesn't matter if it's a product or service. It's really being more of a consultative because you want to help, right? People get into business. They buy a franchise. They have franchisees for many different reasons, but it's predominantly to help people and then to grow a business.
Right. And I think that's actually really an interesting idea because one of the things that we talked about in a previous episode was the difference between having a customer and having a client.
And how do you define the difference?
Right. And so for me, you have a transaction or you have a relationship.
And which one's which? I'm curious. Customer or the
Right.
client?
To me, the client is the relationship, and a customer is a transaction. I go to Home Depot and I buy a bag of bolts, right? That's a transaction. Perhaps, though, if I go to Home Depot and I'm looking to do a home remodel, then I'm looking to get into a relationship, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's very interesting about the business that you're in. Who do you tend to find is probably your most ideal candidate in terms of your top clients? Who do you find uses your franchise most frequently?
So it's less about industry and positionality and more about mindset.
Okay.
So we are industry agnostic, but it's like you just described, customers versus clients. Are you transactional or are you more relational? For a product or service that sells itself, and those who say that, it should. And you shouldn't pay a sales team to go out there and sell it. It should be an e-commerce, and you should brand it and do a good job marketing and let it sell itself. It's for the organizations and the people they've done pretty well, and they maybe hit a plateau, or they're just kind of sick and tired of that ebbs and flows, where they know that they're going to have busy seasons and lulls, and it's just what happens is they don't really realize this, they're not prospecting throughout. So they ride that curve versus intentionally strategizing, so it becomes growth over time, not a plateau. So those who are looking for that strategy from a mindset perspective of, I haven't arrived, I can get better. And I've
So-
worked with, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I finish. I'm sorry to jump
I've
on you
worked
there.
with people who, like I said, have been in sales, or they've had their own business for 5 minutes, 5 hours. I just have to have a conversation right at the beginning, to way late in their career, 20, 30-year business veterans who are like, you know what, I haven't arrived, I can always do better, open to a conversation, realizing that there is good synergy from a mindset perspective, and realize, all right, my team can do better. We've done some really good things, but the order we do it, and the strategy we do it, and the system we do it is just kind of like all for all, and
Right.
not really cohesive. So it's more about mindset than positionality.
So tell me about you. How did you land at Sandler? Like, what drew you to this? I mean, there are a million, just shy exactly, somewhere exactly, below 3,000 franchises out there right now. How did you come to find Sandler?
So mine was a journey. So first and foremost, I was a professor and director of a program at Loyola Marymount University. Loved what I did, was doing a career choice, had a franchise broker, doing it more as an investment. Didn't even know that this was an opportunity. So for those who are out here listening, trying to get into it, is a broker is a great way to start. Have a conversation with someone. And had I never talked to Pete, I wouldn't be sitting in this seat in this position.
Right.
I was passively looking at one opportunity. And then he goes, over time, he realized I was looking much more for a career in this than a passive income as an investment. And he goes, Mike, the one you're looking at is great. Pursue it, continue to do that. However, I don't get commission on that one. So check out these 4. And I'd never heard of Sandler before he said that. And he goes, you're going to love one, because he knew exactly who I was, where I come from. He's like, one of them I know is not going to resonate with you, but I know I want to give you the band, everything.
Right.
And then 2, you might be interested. So I went out, did my research, and the one he said that I would love was Sandler, because we believe in that reinforcement, that idea of over time. And he was very familiar with the franchise, and with Ron, who was with us before, and the rest is history. I went out there and did my research. Another thing I did is I picked up the phone and called. Is other franchise owners, they know what it's like to get started. So their empathy for those who are hungering, they will give you 10, 15, 20 minutes. So I made it a goal to try and connect with 50 from the different franchisees. Didn't make my goal.
I'm sorry,
Didn't
out
make
of
my goal.
the Sandler group, you connected with
all of
that many?
No, out of all. So I wanted to talk to 50 different franchise owners before I made my commitment.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
My goal was about 10 per and then some, so maybe outside the industry, those who did it didn't do a franchise opportunity, pros and cons. And for me, it was kind of a perfect time to do all this, because I had taken a year off. I had left my job, took a year to travel, and then I was going to start my next chapter. So this all kind of happened at a perfect time. I had time to research. For those who are listening, being like, Mike, how the heck did you find time? If you structure and you plan, you'll be able to put it in. If you make 15 minutes a day a habit that you call one other owner, by the end of 3-4 months, you'll have talked to 50 plus people. I promise that. So
let me ask you, was there typically we find there is, so you had a broker, very similar to what we're doing with our mentee program, the $1 Million Mentor Mentee program, helping people, you go to 3 different verticals, and within those verticals, you look at 3 different brands and, make sure they have all the tools available. But for you in particular, if you, let's say, looked at 3 different training programs, or maybe even specifically sales training franchises, was there 1 or 2 things about Sandler, and excuse me for mispronouncing it before,
that's all right.
About Sandler that really grabbed you? I mean, what was it? Because some people it's training, some people it's leadership, that they met the leadership staff, and that's what it was. What was it for you that really?
So I had 4 factors I was weighing in on. is
Mhm.
first and foremost community, right? And
Okay.
getting into the consulting world, that's a very lonely world. And the community that it provide, first and foremost, was one of the things I was looking at. Number two, the resources. I had, like I said, I was a program director at LMU, so I know the thousands of hours necessary from a team to
Yeah.
create resources. So what resources did it provide? Number three was earning potential. What does it
Mhm.
look like? And what does the projection look like over time versus things like that? And then number four was like this logistics, miscellaneous, like nice to have things to, and I had like a little matrix, so each franchise I was looking at. And when I met with Sandler, went out for the intro. They're in Baltimore, so they flew. You do your walk in.
Mhm.
It was just me, so I got all the attention, and it was kind of like, well, am I the only one? Where another one I've been like one of 10, or
Yeah. Why am I the only one?
yeah. And then when I looked underneath the hood of the car, per se, it was a match made in heaven. The beliefs and ideals of what they offered, the curriculum was top notch, the resources were top notch. Not to say that the other programs didn't have good stuff, because
Sure.
they did. But like I said, I was coming from a program and mentality, it matched what I had created
Mhm.
almost to a T. It's just different language. So I was in academia and they are business. So just swap out the language, and I just had to learn the new language. It was, you know, turn the keys and your car is ready to go. So for me, it was a perfect fit. For
Sure.
others, the couple cons was they're focused on sales.
Right.
People talk about Sandler, they talk about sales and sales leadership. Well, that
Mhm.
wasn't my language. So that was a barrier to entry for me. But with any franchise owner who's listening right now, or any franchisee, that it's going to be hard that first year, and you'll
Yeah.
learn it. You got to just make sure that it's the right fit for where you're looking for. And as Kristen, like you mentioned in the program that you offer, the mentorship, is make sure you do your research. Is make
Yeah.
sure that it is the direction you want to go, that you're going to have to spend time. This isn't, it's not a fairy tale. So anyone who tells you that it's easy, they're lying.
That's right.
Is it possible? Absolutely. But it's going to take some grit and some hard work.
Yeah. Don't you find, and obviously you chose a franchise, so it's kind of an unfair question, but
No, go ahead.
I always think, find, believe, air quotes, right? That a franchise is just following the program. Where if you were to go out and do it on your own, like you said, you came out of academia, it's you could probably put it together yourself, right? Because you're a smart guy, you're well disciplined. But to walk into a program that's already defined for you saves a lot of time, a lot of risk, and you get up to speed and start making money a lot more quickly than if you were to try to do it all on your own.
Well, again, it comes with the support. Most, when I talk about that community and that culture, there was very few franchise owners who, when I called, I didn't hear from them. So, and
Mm-hmm.
again, similar things happen in other organizations, but one of the main, that's why it was one of my top four in the tenants, is what's the culture and support?
Right.
Because if you're going to pay for a franchise, and obviously the prices range, but you're committing to that culture, you're committing to a proven system, right? It's
Right.
like the McDonald's. Like you can go start a burger store, but you're starting with a brand, you're starting with a proven system and mentorship to take you from where you are today to an excellent business owner.
Sure.
And although many people who are listening are probably like, yeah, I'm business savvy, so was I. But what I
Mm-hmm.
learned in that first year was exponential between the previous 15 years of my life. And I grew $1 million business or nonprofit on
Right.
LMU's campus. I got an MBA. I did a ton of stuff during, and that 1 year of having the mentorship internal on my own, I learned more than that 15 years combined.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
why,
awesome.
pro or con with the idea behind a franchise is it's the support that comes with it. It's not just
Right.
marketing and the brand that comes with the known entity that you're buying. It's why
Mm-hmm.
it's known. It's the
Right.
proven system behind it.
And you bring up a good point, because when we bought our franchise, my husband had finished his MBA. And so the deal was I was going to be like the marketing. I'm the like person, right? I'm the social one, and he's going to be the financial guy, right? Well, that lasted like maybe 60 days. And then it was like, you need to get out of my way. And he went on to do his real job, as we refer to it. And I continued to run the business. But it is very different, I think, when you get concepts and you have this fundamental understanding, but all of a sudden then when it's your money and it's your business and you're no longer working with models, you're working with the real thing. There is no better lesson in life than to be right there and know that if you make a mistake, it's all on you, right? When the bank's empty, it's empty.
Absolutely. And I'll even validate your point a little bit is I'm in a consulting world. I sell air. So if you think about all the franchises out there, well, it'd be like, well, Mike, why the heck would you buy a franchise where all you're doing is selling air? And it goes back to the proven system. And, it's the idea of people have done it. It works. There's a lot of opportunity out there. If you're trying to franchise your own brand, obviously there's opportunities there, but if you're looking to buy a franchise and become a franchisee, it's this idea of they want you to succeed.
Right.
And for transparency, Sandler doesn't go out there and sell for me. We are all independently owned, we all function, but they want you to succeed. It's a give and take model in the franchise world where it's not just, hey, pay us a residual or come on in. We have a brand to protect, and we want to make sure we have quality people. And so there is a little bit of that dance in the beginning, and then the support that follows up. Every Tuesday I have a coaching call with a coach through my franchise. And it's the idea is I can be as actively as I want in the network that they've provided, or passive. If I just want to take it and go and do it on my own. But that's not why I opted into the system.
I think those are really good points. And a couple of things that I think people need to think about that is that, right now, as the world has definitely changed with the pandemic and things, I'm sure the way that you guys have done business has had to change as well, right? I mean, you're probably not sitting in auditoriums or in the middle of an assembly doing these classes anymore.
So it's funny, we were the #1 in-person sales training organization in the world. So think about that for a second. We bring strangers together to collaborate. And a year ago, we couldn't do that anymore. So we had to adapt, just as every other business professional did. And, mine are now run through Zoom. And you run a bad meeting in person, people aren't coming back. You run one bad online, people aren't going to come back. So it's that idea, it comes back to leadership and facilitation. That's what we do well. And we use the breakout rooms, we do small group discussion. You don't have lazy questions, so you have the content with questions that incite discussion, and you put the professionals in the rooms, let them dialogue, come back. It's the same thing that we would do if we were in person. It's a little more challenging because yes, I'm in this box. It's hard for me to take, I'm a big note guy, even though I have terrible handwriting. I love connecting the ideas on a grease board or a whiteboard. And that's a little bit of a challenge now, but there's technology to help mitigate it. And I won't go back to in-person until 2022. And I may not ever, I will do in-person eventually, but my current program won't go back online because I have people outside of LA County. So since they're outside of LA County, we meet every single week. It's, they're not flying to LA for this. So, and in May, so it was 2 months virtual. And LA and the world was kind of saying we might open up in the summer. I did an informal poll to my clients, and I asked, who would want to go back to in person? Who wouldn't? Just testing, 100% online in the future. So this was 2 months into it. They were 100% They don't have to drive 45 minutes an hour. They don't have to find parking. They don't have to take a break from their day to come and do this.
Right.
Because it's every week for an hour and a half. You put all those things together, you lose a half day. Now
Yeah.
it's you log in, it's very engaging, it's interactive, they take with it, and then they go back to their world, and
Yeah.
then they can put it into play. So it's
Yeah, I think that's
definitely,
we've heard all these, you hear a lot of the downtrodden and the bad stuff about what the pandemic has done to business. And I think this is a really great example of how the word that I always make fun of is pivot, because I feel like it's one of those overused words, right, of the year. But in this case, because you were able to do that and it opened up all these other markets that, like you said, outside of LA, you probably wouldn't have had those clients.
Kristen, I lost 80% of my business by the beginning of April. There was a day where I lost a client every day for 6 or 8 days in a row. Since then to the end of 2020, I'd 4x'd my business from January.
That's
So
amazing.
even though I had a huge downturn in the spring, the
Yeah.
year finished 400% increased from the way it started because I didn't stop. And
Yeah.
yes, pivot is being used a lot, but if you're listening, it's the idea of moving forward intentionally.
Right.
That's what I keep talking about. It's not about just getting by, or it's how are you going to change your pivot, or whatever word you want to use, intentionally into the future. So
Yep.
with that, I mean, is if you're surviving right now, so you take your restaurant owners, some of their hospitality, they're surviving. It's
Right.
hard times right now, but they're figuring out other ways to bring in revenue, whether
Sure.
it's utilizing partnerships like a DoorDash, or doing other services of contactless pickup. And don't stop doing that into the future. You've now
Right.
created 2 3 more verticals that you can now thrive into the future.
Yeah.
So it's when it goes back to, because we will go back. And those
Sure.
entrepreneurs who are listening, and those owners who are listening, are like, when?
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Soon, we will be going back. But remember, there's a huge chunk of humans that will not be comfortable with, because we've just been reinforced for 1 calendar year, contact's bad. So if you
Yeah.
think there's going to be a switch that flips and 100% of your old clients come back, that's not happening.
Well,
So
I
how
am
are you
not. I'm not giving up Instacart.
right?
Instacart, like, I don't want to go walk through the aisles, right? And it's mainly just because I can't stand waiting in line. And so for me, I'm like, that's the best thing I discovered with COVID, is being able to have my groceries on my doorstep.
And how can you create more Instacart experiences? Because that's what it's
Yeah.
about, right? It's about
Yeah.
client experience, and are they happy? And is there stickiness? Do they want to come back? So
Exactly.
the biggest innovations in business happen during times of downturn and recession. This was
Mhm.
both. This was both a recession and a pandemic. So just the innovation that's coming out of these last 12 months is awesome. And don't get caught behind. That's important.
So
You got to keep moving forward.
I don't expect you to know exactly, but roughly, how many Sandler training centers are there in the U.S.?
There's 250. So there's 250 worldwide.
Okay.
So we're a global franchise. So there's
Okay.
about 250, give or take.
And can you give us kind of a ballpark of what the investment looks like for listeners out there who might be thinking, hey, this is kind of sounds like my gig?
Yeah, I mean, you can go right on Sandler.com, and everything's right out there in black and white. There's no questions about it. It's 75 to get started, 75K. And then there's a payment module throughout, but it's going to be, if I just full transparency, you're probably looking about 100,000 to get started.
Okay.
You're going to want a little bit of leeway. Anyone who's getting into a consulting organization, I say 6 to 24 month, probably at 12 to 18 month is the good timeline that you want to give yourself, that you have enough money to keep the lights on. You may have to go to a ramen diet, or cut back on your coffees and stuff, but give yourself about 18 months before you're making serious income and supporting you or your family.
Yep.
But that's what I would say. And obviously in this virtual world, there's less overhead costs. You don't have your resource center. The center was a big expensive, lump sum every single month. That's no longer here. So that's about out of pocket is what you're going to be looking to get started into.
Okay, now here's a good question for you.
Go for it.
If you went back to day one, what would you do differently?
Love the question, and I would do more faster. Like I
Really?
said, that first year, I learned so much. I made a lot of mistakes. I would want to have failed faster.
Okay.
We all, like, again, for me, it's a lot of outbound sales. No one knows who I am. They know Sandler, but again, it's not marketing. You gotta go prospect. So it was hard for me to get in front of get more at bats. It took some time. So
Well, I know this guy named Fred, and he's the West Vine. He loves to get names and companies out there, so he might be of assistance.
sure, and it was beyond a mark because Sandler does a great job marketing, and
Right.
I believe in everything that Fred does, and getting in front of more people from a proactive. Because at the same time, who is Mike? So yes, the education and the drip is there, and I would have made more calls. I would have made more dials, walked into more places when I could have walked into more. And again, not that I wasn't doing it, I just
Mhm.
would have done more. There's a lot of things I did that I look back, and if you're just about to get started, you need to do these things. For example, have a mentor and have a coach. Those are two different things. A mentor is someone you can look for an advice, probably not a paid opportunity, but they've been in your shoes before.
Mhm.
And a coach is someone you pay out of your pocket to help develop you, because that puts skin in the game. And then number three, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but there's so many different things that I would advise from day one. Don't wait until your first year, until you have a better cash flow. Get started immediately, because the return is exponential.
That's awesome. So if you were speaking to somebody out there today, can you describe who that ideal candidate is that you would say, hey, you're the person who needs to buy this franchise. This franchise is for you. Who is that person?
So first of all, you're crazy.
Yes.
But for serious, it's someone who's kind of sick of the rat race. They're tired of working for someone else. They want their own schedule. The key is you still have drive. Someone who's still hungry to work. This is not something where it's passive income and it's more of an investment than it is an opportunity. This is expect hard work to get it up and running. And if you're someone who likes training and problem solving, you like growing business, you like selling, selling is fun for you. You don't see it like that, trying to sell ice to an Eskimo mentality. You like it as a problem solving. It's a great franchise opportunity. And like I said, it's been around for over 50 years. And it's historically, those who are franchise owners, they stay. They don't just come and go. There's not a big turn. So they stay, they grow careers. A couple of franchise owners, their children are now taking over. So there is that pass down. But if you're someone who likes that mentality, it's a great opportunity.
That's great. And Michael, so I know that people listening to the show always want to know, how do they get a hold of one of our guests after the show? If they want to reach out to you and say, hey, tell me more, we'll obviously have all your information posted on our homepage, but can you tell them where to find you?
Absolutely. So I think the best way is LinkedIn, and a little plug on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest business networking group. So use it to connect. Don't use it to sell. Use it to connect. If you want to connect with me, it's Michael Castiglione. You'll see my cheesy smile and bald head and out in Los Angeles. And, two things. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation around franchising if you're interested in Sandler, anything of that nature. Also, if you're interested in selling, I do an open training. So from COVID, some of my lessons learned is I do a free training every single month. I was doing a lot of pro bono stuff back in March and April, and I've continued it once a month into the future. If you're interested in checking that session out, just find me on LinkedIn and say, hey, Mike, heard you talking. Would love to see that training, and I'll shoot you the link. And every single month I do it. So it might be a couple of weeks away, or might, like, for example, one's tonight. So at 4:00 tonight, but obviously this is in the future. You don't hear this. So
Right.
that's
Well,
the best way to get a hold of me.
That is a great way to start promoting yourself and start planting that seed, like we just talked about for you. Who is Mike, right? So it's great to get your name out there and start kind of planting the seed, as I said. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, and I can't wait to have you back. Yeah, I think, we might have to talk to you. It sounds like you really like the mentor and coach situation. So we might have to talk to you later on and see how things are going and how much extra time you have on your hands.
You got it. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, Kristin. Fred, have a great day.
You too, Michael. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Well, folks, that's the show for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Michael Castiglione of Sandler, my co-host Kristin, Ray, and David for another interesting show. And we'll be back next week with a new episode of
Pillars of franchising. Pillars of franchising.